Today our story is simply horrifying. If a film were made about it, it could win all the Oscars in the world. But there are gruesome details that cannot be portrayed on screen. However, I will try to convey it to you. Today we will delve into the story of a girl who suddenly disappeared in the middle of the night from her bedroom. When the police started investigating the case, they encountered horrifying twists that shook them. In the end, they solved the case, but even seasoned investigators were not prepared to hear the truth. Rowan Damia Ford was born on April 11, 1998, in San Diego, California. At the time, she was a 9-year-old student in the 4th grade at Triway Elementary School. Rowan attended Stella Baptist Church, where she was an active participant in the Sunday School, Wednesday night team children's group and Angel Food Ministry. Every Friday morning, she would sit on the steps early to greet the church pastor and arrive early just to see if anyone needed help. During the summer, she had just learned how to swim and ride a bike. She adored her Blue Blossom Quest bicycle. Rowan loved reading, especially about cats, singing, coloring, and drawing. A girl with a kind and gentle soul, her close family consisted only of her mother, Colin Manson, and maternal relatives with whom they rarely interacted but were still connected. When Rowan lost her biological father and Colin lost her husband under unknown circumstances, they moved to the city of Stella in the state of Missouri, located in Newton County. It was there that Colin met a man named David Spears, whom she later married, and he became a stepfather to Rowan. Rowan accepted him very calmly, because at that time she was only 5 to 6 years old and didn't fully grasp the situation. Eventually, her stepfather replaced her biological father. Colin worked the night shift, so she would sometimes leave Rowan under the care of her stepfather David during the night. David, on the other hand, worked on a farm during the day, so he could only look after Rowan at night. This sometimes led to Rowan being alone at home, making her more independent at the age of 9. On November 3, 2007, Colin returned home from her night shift at 9 a.m. and went into Rowan's room to check on her. However, when she opened the door, she didn't find Rowan in her bed. After searching the house, Colin woke up Spears and asked him about Rowan's whereabouts. Spears told Colin that Rowan had stayed over at a friend's place, but he didn't inquire about which friend she went to, as he didn't anticipate anything happening to the girl in their small town. Colin went through the entire neighborhood in search of Rowan, but without success. Colin wanted Spears to call the police, but he insisted that Rowan would be back home from her friend's place. When Rowan didn't return that day, Colin contacted the Newton County Sheriff's Department to report Rowan missing, triggering extensive searches to find her. Spears was the last person to have seen Rowan, but he wasn't alone. Another person named Collings was present. Collings had actually been living with the family for several months during the summer and fall of 2007. He slept in the basement, and Rowan referred to him as Uncle Chris. Collings had moved to his family's farm at the end of October 2007 and lived in a camper on the estate, located in Wheaton, Missouri, in Berry County. According to Spears, on the evening before Rowan's disappearance, Nathan Mahurin, a mutual friend of Collings and Spears, met them at the farm where they worked. They went to a liquor store to buy 2 or 3 packs of malt liquor, and then went back to Spears' home to play pool and have some drinks. At 8:30 p.m., Colin left for work, leaving Rowan in the care of Spears. The men continued drinking after purchasing more alcohol. Later that same evening, Collings asked Mahurin to drive him home. Mahurin and Collings convinced Spears to join them and leave Rowan alone at home, sleeping on the floor in her room. On the way to Collings' trailer, the men stopped to buy more alcohol. In Collings' trailer, they continued drinking and smoked marijuana. An hour later, Mahurin and Spears went home. Mahurin decided to take backroads instead of the direct highway route to Spears' home because he was intoxicated and didn't want to be stopped by the police. Mahurin dropped off Spears and returned home around midnight, while Spears, without checking Rowan's room, went to sleep. On November 4th, county deputies spoke with Collings in the parking lot of a local restaurant regarding Rowan's disappearance. Collings told deputies the same story as Spears about their activities that evening, but omitted the detail about smoking marijuana. Collings informed the deputies that he stayed home and went to sleep after Mahurin and Spears left. He denied talking to Spears after their departure and claimed ignorance about Rowan's disappearance. Deputies described Collings as cooperative, interested, and polite. Later that same evening, Collings visited Colin at her home, inquired about the progress of the search, and offered to help find Rowan. On November 5th, the FBI joined the investigation. Meanwhile, county deputies approached Collings at his workplace and asked him to answer additional questions. Collings agreed and went to the sheriff's office on his own. Collings provided a statement similar to the one he gave the day before. Miranda rights were read to Collings after he was asked about Spears' potential involvement in Rowan's disappearance. Collings acknowledged understanding his rights and waived them. He also agreed to undergo a polygraph test and a computer voice stress analysis. After the testing was completed, Collings spoke with the deputy, insisting he knew nothing about Rowan's disappearance and offered assistance in the search. Later that same day, Chief Clinton Clark of the Wheaton Police Department was on routine patrol in Wheaton. Clark and Collings had a 17-year relationship, with Clark knowing Collings since childhood. He was a close friend of Collings' adoptive mother and knew Collings' adoptive father. Collings trusted Chief Clark, sought advice from him, and found comfort in him when Collings' mother passed away. It became a routine for Collings to visit Chief Clark when he came to town to check on him when he lived out of town. On November 4th, Collings called Chief Clark, informed him that Rowan was missing, and mentioned his efforts to find her. Chief Clark urged Collings to continue doing everything possible to help find Rowan. After the conversation with Collings, Chief Clark notified the FBI that Collings had reached out to him regarding Rowan's disappearance. Chief Clark emphasized his long-standing relationship and good understanding with Collings, believing that Collings might know something about Rowan's disappearance, and offered his assistance in the investigation. The FBI and county deputies encouraged Chief Clark to continue negotiations with Collings. That evening, Collings went to Collins' home to discuss the investigation. The FBI separately interviewed Collins and Collings at Collins' residence. Collings was described as cooperative, providing the same account of the events as before. He spoke about his relationship with Spears, expressed his belief that Spears was involved in Rowan's disappearance, and suggested wearing a wire to assist the investigation. Collings also proposed locations to search for Rowan. On November 6, law enforcement continued the search for Rowan, with Spears at the center of the investigation. Spears underwent multiple interrogations, and his home was searched. Collings, however, went to Chief Clark's office in the evening to inform him that he had spoken with the FBI and was actively participating in the search for Rowan, even suggesting search locations. Chief Clark sensed that Collings had something on his mind and appeared disturbed. Collings avoided eye contact with Chief Clark, which was unusual. Chief Clark told Collings that he knew how to reach him if he needed assistance. After this conversation, Chief Clark contacted the FBI and informed them about his discussion with Collings. The FBI believed that if Collings was planning to confess or disclose any information, he would do so only with Chief Clark. Therefore, the FBI asked Chief Clark to assist in the investigation, to which Chief Clark agreed. On November 7th, Collings met with representatives from the FBI at the Newton County Sheriff's Department. Collings agreed to provide a buccal swab for DNA analysis. He completed consent forms for the search of a safe belonging to him located in Spears' house, his own property, and his trailer. Collings underwent an additional check that required a voluntary waiver of his rights. Subsequently, Collings was interrogated, but the details were not disclosed. Collings spoke with the FBI about Spears' alibi on the night of Rowan's disappearance, stating that it did not align with the truth. During the interview, Collings became increasingly emotional, tense, and nervous when questioned about Rowan. Collings told the agents that if they were going to accuse him of involvement in Rowan's disappearance, he would no longer speak with them. The interview concluded at that point. In the evening, Collings went to Chief Clark's office and was very upset about his FBI interview earlier that day. Collings told Chief Clark that he was going to shut everything else down and might need to hire a lawyer. Chief Clark told Collings that it was his right but also urged him to continue doing everything possible to help find Rowan, stating that discontinuing cooperation was not in his best interest. Collings told Chief Clark, "If I have anything else to say, I'll talk to you." Chief Clark told Collings that he seemed to have something on his mind and asked if he knew anything about Rowan's disappearance. Collings began to cry and stated that he always loved Rowan and would never do anything to harm her. At that moment, someone entered the police department, interrupting their conversation, causing Collings to abruptly leave. Chief Clark contacted the FBI after his conversation with Collings. He informed them that, in his opinion, Collings was close to a breaking point and speculated that Collings might need a break from questioning. Chief Clark further relayed that Collings was going to consult with a lawyer, and he attempted to dissuade him from doing so, urging him to continue cooperating. On November 8, there was no contact with law enforcement from Collings. Chief Clark spoke with FBI agents about Collings, the dynamics of his family, and the unique relationship Chief Clark had with him. Chief Clark believed that Collings knew something about Rowan's disappearance, but thought they needed to find her body first. The FBI informed Chief Clark that once they found Rowan's body, they wanted him to be the one to talk to Collings. On November 9th, Rowan's body was discovered at the bottom of a sinkhole known as the Fox Den Cave. The sinkhole was located about 20 to 30 feet off the road in densely wooded terrain. Rowan was naked from the waist down, except for one sock. She had a ligature mark on her neck and trauma, blood, and tissue damage in the genital area. She was covered with leaves and debris. Chief Clark learned about the discovery of Rowan's body from the news in the morning. His office informed him that Collings was looking for him to discuss an important matter. The FBI contacted Clark and tasked him with finding Collings to deliver a crucial message: they had found Rowan's body. Chief Clark set out to search for Collings, but without success. Collings called Chief Clark on his cell phone and asked if law enforcement officers were monitoring him in a gray minivan. Chief Clark denied any knowledge of surveillance. Collings explained that he had been driving all over the area, trying to shake things up, and that he was nervous and felt threatened. Chief Clark advised Collings to go to the police department, but Collings suggested meeting with them instead. After they met, Collings told Chief of Police Clark that they needed to talk and agreed to return to the police station in Chief Clark's patrol car. They discussed the gray minivan, and Collings expressed concern that people might take matters into their own hands now that Rowan's body had been found. Chief Clark informed Collings that he couldn't protect him 24 hours a day and couldn't guarantee his safety. Upon arriving at the police station, Chief Clark read Collings his Miranda rights. Collings indicated that he understood his rights and agreed to talk. Chief Clark told Collings, "Listen, son, it's all over. This morning we found Rowan's body." Collings lowered his head, and tears streamed from his eyes. Chief Clark told Collings that he needed to tell him what Spears did to Rowan, to which Collings reacted with surprise and looked at Chief Clark fairly amusingly. The police station was busy, and Collings stated that he didn't want to talk with so many people around. Chief Clark suggested they go somewhere quiet to talk. Collings proposed going to the Manzi Bridge, located a few miles from Whitten. Chief Clark contacted law enforcement officers to inform them that they and Collings were heading to the Manzi Bridge. After they arrived, Collings extended his hands, indicating that Chief Clark should handcuff him. Chief Clark stated that it wasn't necessary, to which Collings replied, "Either you cuff me or what I'm going to tell you, you're going to do." Collings and Chief Clark sat on the slope near the bridge, and Collings told him what happened on the evening Rowan disappeared. Collings continued to narrate the same story he had maintained throughout the week, detailing his activities up to the point when Mahurin and Spears left his trailer. He confirmed that Mahurin and Spears returned home via back roads to avoid detection, as they wanted to quit drinking and smoking marijuana. Collings told Chief of Police Clark that if he hurried, he could return to Spears' house and take Rowan from there before the other men returned. Collings drove on the highway, which was the fastest route back to Spears' house. Upon returning to Spears' house, Collings went into the bathroom, picked up Rowan from the floor in her bedroom, and carried her outside. Collings placed Rowan, who was still asleep, in his pickup truck. Rowan continued to sleep throughout the journey back to Collings' trailer. Collings brought Rowan into the house, laid her on the bed, and removed her pajama pants and underwear. Collings refrained from speaking to Rowan to avoid her recognizing his voice, and turned off the lights to prevent her from seeing him. Collings then said, "I had sex with her in a missionary position and also used my finger a little bit." Rowan woke up when Collings penetrated her, struggled at first, and then stopped. The sexual act lasted several minutes, and Collings couldn't remember if he ejaculated. Collings then told Chief of Police Clark that he had intended to return Rowan to her home. Collings mentioned leading Rowan outside, holding her hands in front of her while turning away so she couldn't see his face. Rowan looked back over her shoulder and saw Collings in the moonlight. Collings knew that Rowan recognized him and became scared. In an old pickup truck on the estate's property, Collings noticed a chicken coop rope, put it around Rowan's neck, and began strangling her until she stopped moving. Realizing he was in big trouble, Collings placed Rowan's body in the bed of his pickup truck. Initially planning to drop Rowan's body from Manzi Bridge, Collings dismissed the idea, fearing her body would be discovered too quickly. While driving around the county, contemplating his options, Collings decided to visit the Foxhole Cave. Collings told Chief of Police Clark that he tossed Rowan's body into the sinkhole and attempted to drag a few twigs and branches to cover the entrance, but it was too large, and debris fell inside. Collings got into his pickup and returned to the trailer. In the trailer, Collings discovered blood on his mattress and clothes that he hadn't taken off during the sexual encounter with Rowan. Collings stated that he knew he needed to get rid of these items, in addition to Rowan's pajama pants, her underwear, and the rope he used to strangle her. Collings placed everything except the mattress in the wood stove and burned it. After Collings finished speaking, he and Chief Clark returned to Whitten Police Department because Chief Clark wanted other law enforcement personnel involved in the investigation to hear Collings' story. Collings' confession surprised the investigator, as they had been operating under the assumption that Spears killed Rowan and Collings merely knew about the incident. In the end, this led to Collings confessing and being sentenced to the death penalty, while Spears later pleaded guilty to her involvement. and received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Goodbye, everyone.